Hey family, happy Sunday to you. Happy HBCU Sunday to you. You all look incredible with your HBCU swag on. So thank you for coming, representing your favorite HBCU or not, whether you attended one or not. Our HBCUs need our support, and this is a cool way for us to do it. I have been repping HBCUs all month long. On the first Sunday of February, I had my Howard swag on. Last Sunday, Talladega, and today I am repping Xavier University out of New Orleans. So thanks to all of you that have been a part of making this month extremely special. And we know that on next Sunday, we are celebrating Greek Sunday and recognizing the contribution and impacts of our historically Black Greek organizations. I'm sorry that I can't be with you on today. My wife and I are actually in Los Angeles celebrating the retirement of my pastor and one of the apostolic elders of this great church, Bishop Kenneth Ulmer. He has led that church and led the city of Los Angeles and led people around the world for well over 45 years. And today is his very last message as senior pastor of Faithful Central. And there's a citywide, statewide, really, celebration honoring him as he retires. But even though I can't be with you today, it gives me great honor to introduce a tremendous woman of God who I'm super excited is here with us today and is going to bless your socks off. Maggie Anderson is a prolific thinker, academician, activist, author, and so much more. Maggie and I connected many, many years ago. We were both speaking at the A.G. Gadsden Conference about Black business, Black entrepreneurship, and even Black empowerment. And I was so taken by her story and really by her life's message. Her and her family committed to a social experiment many, many years ago, and she's going to tell you a lot more about it. She's written an incredible book that my wife and I have been blessed by. It's called Our Black Year, One Family's Quest to Buy Black in America's Racially Divided Economy. And I know that she's brought this book with her, and she's going to be able to sign some books. And I want to encourage you to get this book because everybody has concepts about empowerment. Lots of people have ideas. This is what needs to be done. But what I love about Maggie is she's already done it and is doing it. For a lot of people, they stay with the ideas, but she's actually walking it out, and she's going to tell us how we can do it as well. And so get ready. We've been talking about Black presence in the Bible the last 2 weeks, but now we're turning in this series and we're going to start talking about strategies for empowerment as we close our Black History Month celebration. So it gives me great honor to introduce to you a prolific woman of God, Maggie Anderson. Maggie, I wish that I could be there to hug your neck. But let me tell you something. I love you and I appreciate you. And I'm so excited that you are getting ready to share your wisdom with our TWC family. So listen, do your thing, sister. Family, after the recap video, the next voice that you will hear is none other than our friend and our special guest, Maggie Anderson.
The reason that this teaching is so important is not to make people feel uncomfortable. Jesus says the truth shall set you free. We cannot begin to understand and have an objective understanding of race if we are looking every place else except the Word of God. There is a stronghold of racial division that has been over this state for a long time. And somebody, I can't believe you preaching this. Because I'm believing that God's going to break that thing. I'm believing that the stronghold is going to come down.
All right. Good morning, good morning. Happy Black History Month. That's how I greet everyone. Every day. I really do that every day of the year. Happy Black History Month. I'm honored, I'm truly humbled to speak to you today to close out Bishop's series on presence and empowerment. So I thank you, Dr. Moody, for allowing me to share a piece of your pulpit today, and I want to thank your church for all you all do to serve and build up the people in Alabama. And on behalf of my family, my husband, John, and our daughters, Kara and Corey. John's watching right now. I love you, sweetie. I want to thank all of you who came out or are tuning in for being here and honoring my family's Buy Black stand, our Buy Black love, our Buy Black life and movement at this beautiful church and service and in this special way. So thank you. Also, I just want to say, because I don't do it enough, I want to take a moment to thank and praise God for giving me the wisdom and the strength to conceive of the empowerment experiment, my family's famous pledge to live off Black businesses for an entire year and do so for all the world to see. Thank you, Lord, for keeping our year alive in my book, Our Black Year, One Family's Quest to Buy Black in America's Racially Divided Economy. And that book is also a treatise on Black business history. Thank you, Lord, for not stopping there, for converting our message into a movement that is supported and spread by bold, brilliant believers like my friend Bishop Moody. A decade ago, Publishers Weekly, in reviewing my book, Our Black Year, called this issue, the lack of support of Black-owned businesses and the rapid exit of dollars from Black communities, a dynamite subject, and my family's experiment was historic and effective. Library Journal said my book successfully illuminates the roadblocks faced by Black business owners and the racial divide that continues to persist in our economy. It also said the book will appeal to students of sociology and economics, as well as all those looking for inspiration to effect positive change in their communities. Alfred Edmond, editor of Black Enterprise, said the Andersons' economic odyssey was nothing short of heroic. Kathy Hughes, owner of the Radio 1, TV 1, Urban 1 empire, said, "Thank God for this level of commitment to our Black community." Mark Morial, head of the Urban League, called it an important book that provides a path for us to follow. But we didn't create the empowerment experiment. I didn't write our Black Year. We didn't do that. We didn't impose that scrutiny and sacrifice on our then 2- and 3-year-old daughters, too young to understand our purpose, too innocent to be forced into our audaciousness. I didn't put my babies through that kind of sacrifice for kudos or great book reviews. I did that to get here, to see you and share this with you and unite with you. I did this because economic solidarity and entrepreneurial success is in our blood. It's our tradition, our history. And it shouldn't just be our history, though, the way of the past. It should be our way of life now. It should be our enduring legacy. And until it is, it remains our responsibility and our calling. Pastor Moody felt bound to show us how so much of our suffering has to do with a lack of knowledge of self, of our powerful presence in the Bible. And it is my beautiful and blessed burden to show you how our lack of empowerment also stems from the imposed ignorance of our own history, tradition, and culture of entrepreneurial excellence and economic solidarity. In the empowerment experiment, I earned that right, that role. That's my post, my position in the kingdom building team. That's why Pastor trusted me enough to be here and close this important series. So it's okay, Bishop. You can pass the ball to me. I'm Malone and you're Stockton, and like Carl Malone, the mailman, I will deliver. I got you, Pastor. So let's begin. In 1832, well before emancipation, Maria Stewart was a freed slave whose husband's businesses and assets, her entire estate, were stolen from her by racists only 3 years after they were married and he died. That tragedy and injustice lit the fire of righteousness in Maria. She rallied fellow Black women who were already free to unite and fight economically and entrepreneurial for the community's collective freedom. In a public square in Boston, Sister Maria yelled this, "Daughters of Africa, awake. It is of no use for us to sit with our hands folded, hanging our heads. Let us make a mighty effort and arise. Let's raise a fund ourselves. Do you ask, what can we do? unite and build a store of our own. Fill one side with dry goods and the other side with groceries. Do you ask, where is the money? We have spent more than enough on nonsense to do what building we should want. She said this in 1832. Miss Maria and other free black entrepreneurs had taken on horror and hate in their own way by amassing great businesses and community power. We built schools, universities, churches, banks, insurance companies and agencies, grocery stores, hotels, drugstores, department stores, all black, hardware stores, daycare centers, service stations, entire farming regions, hospital systems, asset brokerages, all kinds of shops and professionals and small businesses thrived. And then after Juneteenth, those businesses, churches, schools, neighborhoods, and towns, they grew even stronger without the support they were entitled to, owed to by the state and federal governments, notwithstanding the 40 acres and a mule lie and the Freedmen's Bureau fallacy. Even still, in the early and mid-1900s, black entrepreneurship was at its peak. So think about it. Unlike our black kids now, Dr. King, when he was a kid, he grew up seeing business owners, studying business, looking up to local successful entrepreneurs. He admired W.B. Du Bois and Carter G. Woodson and Booker T. Washington, titans of industry. He read Booker T's book, Negro in Business, as a young man. He met with business moguls like Birmingham's own A.G. Gaston, hung out with millionaires like Cirillo McSween. Cirillo McSween was the first black agent for New York Life, and still to this day, one of the most successful agents ever. McSween converted that financial success into entrepreneurship and bought several McDonald's restaurants and started the Black McDonald's Owners Association. He parlayed all of that expertise and success into empowerment and service. He served as the treasurer for Dr. King and the SCLC, and then Cirillo, this super successful businessman, put his own money and the SCLC's money into black-owned banks. This is what business owners did to empower the community. A grocery store owner and the owner of a printing company, two friends named Mr. Lee and Mr. Quartz, they created the first branch of the NAACP in Mississippi. And they led and they backed the dangerous pursuit of the vote there. And when they won that fight, their names, these business owners, were the first ones on the voter rolls. When they called the meeting within hours of Rosa Parks' arrest, lawyers, insurance agents, pharmacists, grocers, barbers and bankers, publishers, and black union leaders came to offer their support. The protesters protested. The prayers prayed. The preachers, like King and the others in the Montgomery Improvement Association, the preachers planned and organized. But the business owners put those plans into progress, and they funded the fight for freedom. And during that boycott, when the marchers lost their jobs and the businesses were burned down and the homes bombed and the taxi drivers were jailed for giving rise to the boycotters, and some of the business leaders were terrorized for leading that movement, the black banks stepped in. The black funeral homes stepped in. The black churches stepped in. And they built up war chests for the lawsuits, for the protests, to keep the attacked businesses protected and afloat. They put insurance policies in place to rebuild homes and businesses and cover the lost wages and compensate for the death and destruction from the terrorism of the racists. Dr. King wasn't hoping for or hollering for a sponsorship to pay the cost for or pave the way to our freedom. The civil rights movement was not brought to you by. He was good. We were good, because he had Chicago, Cirillo, Birmingham's A.G. Gaston, Lee, and Quartz out of Mississippi, Madam C.J. Walker, the mother of the black hair care industry, and the first woman self-made millionaire. And if you're going to learn anything today, please stop saying she's the first black woman millionaire. First woman in America self-made millionaire, period. And she made those millions, and with those millions, she enabled the NAACP and the National Conference on Lynching. Marie, Madam C.J., black women were killing it in business and empowerment. Maria, Madam, and then Maggie. No, not me. Another Maggie. In 1903, when she was running a newspaper, department store, and a life insurance company, Sister Maggie Lena Walker said that she needed to found the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. She built that bank after President Lincoln's Freedmen's Bureau was raided by racists and left us with nothing. She said this: first, we need a savings bank. Let us put our monies together. Let us use our monies. Let us put our money out among ourselves and reap the benefit ourselves. Let us have a bank, and we'll take the nickels and turn them into dollars. That's what Maggie said. And I like to think that I was named after her, but I wasn't. My very proud black parents never heard of this Maggie, just like most of the very proud black people in this room. Here's something else you might not know. Our very under-celebrated, under-researched, under-taught black history reveals that hundreds of millions were circulated and created and recycled in our black community from Juneteenth to integration. The dollar would stay in our community for 3 years or more until integration. And unemployment was at the same level or lower than that of our white counterparts, lower from 1880 all the way through 1940. Lower. This employment gap that we associate with our skin only materialized in 1960 because black people employed each other. There were black Wall Streets all over, self-sustained neighborhoods all over the country. Black people had planes. Tulsa, Durham, Tampa, Louisville's Russell neighborhood, Sistrunk Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, Bronzeville in Chicago, Jackson Ward District of Richmond, Harlem, Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, Birmingham's Magic City, Lincoln Avenue in Cincinnati, West 9th Street in Little Rock, Farish Street in Jackson, Mississippi, South Street in Philadelphia, and so many more. Black neighborhoods, our neighborhoods, signify genius and greatness, soul and success, elegance, and entrepreneurial excellence. That was us. And that's why the racists so vehemently and violently resisted the success of the black business community. Over 90% of the thousands of lynchings of blacks that happened during Reconstruction and Jim Crow were of business owners. That's terrorism. And when that area they call Black Wall Street in Tulsa was bombed and burned by racists, those racist crowds watched the destruction of that beautiful community, and they called it a Negro barbecue. And remember the grocer and printer I told you about, the friends out of who created the NAACP in Mississippi? Those courageous brothers were all about business, the business of empowerment. They sold their groceries, they printed stuff, and they registered hundreds of black voters. And for that, the two business owners were threatened. But they fought on for us. They fought on for me, for you, Stephanie, a reverend fighting on. That reverend was shot and killed. Killed. A reverend, a good man, a great American. They killed that man of God for doing God's work, black liberation. And Mr. Quartz, his friend, they shot him too. But he lived. And then the local racist banks, they stopped lending to Mr. Quartz. And then the local racist gas stations, they stopped servicing him. When the racists couldn't kill the business owner, they tried to kill his business. But hear me, Quartz and the other wealthy black people in Mississippi started pooling their money in the community so that the community could purchase its own service station and its own bank. And then Quartz business survived and thrived, and he kept supporting the NAACP, and he kept fighting for black Mississippi to be able to vote, and black people in Mississippi were able to vote. Proud, hardworking Americans were inspired and enabled to vote because of Mr. Lee and Mr. Quartz, and so many more black business owners like them. Bottom line, as I close this history lesson, black-owned businesses made life better for tormented black Americans when racist systems would not. And black entrepreneurs risked their lives and livelihoods and made America better, a better democracy when racist structures could not. And I'm here because that needs to happen again. Let's unite economically like they did for our empowerment. I want us to fight for an America where all kinds of people are shopping at a retailer or a grocer, started by a black family, like Mr. Lee's family, why not? Or owned by a black church family, like this black church family, why not? In my America, the one I'm fighting for, this church builds and buys dozens of kale me crazy cafes and healthy lifestyle stores, employing and empowering and enhancing the quality of life for all of us. Why not? In Maria Stewart's America, all kinds of people are looking for black franchises and consumer goods brands and designers, growing black family-owned global conglomerates, and depending on our expertise in entrepreneurs, like black professionals and artisans and contractors and agents, banking with us and staying in our hotels, just like we do everyone else. In Madam CJ's America, it's not a ridiculous notion to a black child that someone like her can own a grocery chain or a pet store or a bowling alley if she wants, and that her parents can pay for college and pass on a big house and a big business, that the toaster her mama buys at Walmart or the paint that her uncle buys at the Home Depot was possibly made by a black family company. In Bishop Moody's America, that black child should be able to go to the corner for candy or go to the bakery and see an owner who looks like and looks out for her. I'm fighting for that America, for our empowerment. 14 years now, before Trump, before George Floyd's murder, 14 years ago, my husband and I took that stand for black people. It was 2009. We were inspired by the election of our first black president, hoping that the newfound unity and hope would translate into economic empowerment too. John and I, two naive nerds, thought we could prove and promote our economic power and promise, prove our love for our people, maybe light a spark that could change the world. Well, we didn't do all that. We didn't change the world. But I can say this. First, our empowerment experiment ain't over yet. So who knows what God has in store? And second, to me, now that I'm in this movement, sometimes it's better to have more guts than glory. Because it's not about glory. And truth be told, our stand and sacrifice did make major headlines, front pages of the Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, LA Times, New York Times, major segments on CNN, C-SPAN, CBS News, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC News, all the big black radio stations and newspapers and TV shows, they covered us. We touched millions all over the world. And then I wrote my book. I gathered our data and our research, our receipts, and I curated the first ever real-life case study in self-help economics. I proved it, not just with my fist, with facts. Northwestern University put their name on my study, one of the best business schools in the world, and they completed that landmark study. Our study proved that close to 1 million new American jobs could be created if some of us would make small changes and sacrifices to buy black. Our businesses are so undersupported that just a teeny bump in support could render a geometric impact. So here are a few more highlights from the empowerment experiment. We spent or otherwise invested over $94,000 that year with black businesses that we would not have otherwise. Over 90% of our spending went back into underserved, predominantly black areas. We went without. We're disappointed by the number of markets and industries where black people still suffer from a complete lack of representation. We're disheartened by our people's lack of pride and solidarity. Our hearts ache seeing up close what my people, black people, have to go through in these retail and food deserts. Can't get a fresh piece of fish or a banana, forced to settle for inferior goods and services and extortionate prices, and enduring disrespect from shop owners who don't look like and won't live in the community, but come into the community every day, remove that padlock from the steel gates and bars, and take black money through that slit in the under the bulletproof glass. And then at the end of the day, after they finish all that, they put that steel door back down, they put that padlock back on, and drive home to their suburbs and enclaves to build up their local tax bases and school systems, send their kids to college, and buy their dream homes and vacations with poor black people's hard-earned wealth. It was hurtful and fearful being called a racist, a Nazi, and the other N-word, getting death threats and hate mail. And it still hurts my heart the most when I think about what my baby girls went through, begging me, their mama, for fruit and toys that we couldn't get. Going to school crying with the shoes too tight, belly poking out of their shirts, and coming home crying because they were teased. Because it took me 5 months to find one black-owned shop offering toddler clothing and shoes. I made my girls eat gas station food like old putrid bologna and overpriced, oversugared, I hope it was cereal, for dinner, because the one black-owned grocery store we could find closed 5 months before we finished our year. All the businesses we sought and supported, the ones we loved and lived off of, the ones you'll read about in the book, not just the grocery store, they're all gone. And then, 1 month after we finished our black year, my mother died in my arms, losing a hard-fought battle with pancreatic cancer. My immigrant mother, a Cuban farm girl who never made it to high school, but was wise enough to teach me that despite what our Cuban peers in Florida told us, our being from Cuba didn't make us not black or less black. Mima taught me that that just meant my African ancestors were dropped off a little earlier. That's what Mima taught me. And my Mima was sick and dying that whole year. And I was out there fighting for this when I should have been her only daughter fighting for her. And I know she suffered longer than she would have so that she could see her only American-born child fulfill this pledge to our black community and our country. Yes, we lost a lot that year, but we learned a lot too, and that's very significant because before that year, John and I thought we had it all and that we knew it all. John's from Detroit. He left to get his undergraduate degree in economics from Harvard, minored in math. Then my sweetie got his MBA in economics and entrepreneurial finance at Northwestern University, Kellogg. He's a financial advisor now, so if any of you are looking for black entrepreneurs to support, take it from your learned speaker. He is the best, he is brilliant, and he is definitely black. Don't even ask me no stupid stuff like that. I grew up in Miami in an underserved area called Liberty City, and then I went to college at Emory University in Atlanta, where I served as an aide to our civil rights icon, our late great Congressman John Lewis. After Atlanta, I headed to Chicago for graduate school like John, but I went to the University of Chicago for my MBA and my law degree and was able to serve with and learn from another civil rights hero, then law professor and community organizer, Barack Obama. Turned 44th president. After he finished with me and he got that done, he was able to go on and become the 44th president of the United States of America. He had to take care of me first. And we fell in love while we were both in graduate school. Now that's John and I, not the president and I. I know this being taped, y'all don't get Michelle on me. John and I fell in love while we were both in graduate school. We found great jobs at big companies, bought a home in a pricey suburb, had our own 2 beautiful little girls, and were living out our fancy fairy tale life. And we supported the community, you know, sort of. We did lead the youth ministry at our black church. John's a mentor with 100 black men. We voted black. We hurt when black people got shot on the South Side. We got happy when black people were nominated for awards and the black coaches made it to the Super Bowl. Real happy when 2 black quarterbacks get to the Super Bowl. Real happy about that. And we are teaching our daughters to love themselves, their God, their neighbor, their country, and their skin. We were black, just not buying black, just like so many most proud black people. But everything else, very, very black. Y'all know what I mean? But hey, we tithed, we donated to the UNCF. Wasn't that enough? Philanthropy is commendable, but it must not cause that philanthropist to overlook the circumstances of economic injustice which make philanthropy necessary. Dr. King said that. So what are those circumstances of economic injustice, and what were we supposed to do about them? In the Asian American communities, the dollar circulated among the banks and retailers and professionals for 28 days before it goes outside. Our Jewish friends keep their dollar for 19 to 21 days, and that's why these groups have the lowest unemployment and incarceration rates and the highest household incomes and educational achievement. In the black community, the dollar lives 6 hours. It used to be 3 years or more. 6 hours. 6 hours. That's part of why the black community suffers and is so far behind. This is why racial disharmony and racist systems and structures grow. These are the circumstances of economic injustice that our king told us we cannot overlook. But with integration, we did start to overlook, and King saw that. He feared our civil rights victories might have come at the expense of our business and economic ones. His fears were warranted. after the bus boycott, after the March on Washington, after the Voting Rights Act, after the Civil Rights Act, after integration, when most of the bombs and fires and lynchings and terror dissipated, so did our economic solidarity and our entrepreneurial spirit. He saw that we were losing our economic fight and our economic might. And in his famous mountaintop speech that he delivered the day before he was murdered in Memphis, Dr. King pivoted and he spoke of our collective buying power. He urged an economic withdrawal from businesses on the record for discriminating against black employees or mistreating black customers. And not just that, though. King specifically fought for black-owned businesses, not just the right to go to white segregated ones. Here's another quote from Dr. King, and this is the one that they don't teach our babies in the history books. This is the one that's conveniently left out of the radio programs and the TV shows. But Dr. King said this: we've got to strengthen black institutions. I call upon you to take your money out of the banks downtown and deposit it into Tri-State Bank. We want a bank-in movement in Memphis, not just a sit-in. We're just telling you to follow what we're doing. We, meaning the SCLC. Put your money there. Now, King was a wordsmith, but for this, he kept it real simple. Put your money there. And we didn't. Late 60s and early 70s, that was the beginning of the end for us, when their hatred of our ascendants was finally matched by our hunger for their acceptance. It became fashionable to abandon the black-owned banks and businesses, to show and prove that we're good enough to buy from businesses once denied to us. We didn't heed the call. We didn't put our money there. So in that time, in those 2 short decades after Dr. King's murder, 85% of our over 120 precious black-owned banks disappeared. The bank Jackie Robinson built with his fame and money so that black families can get mortgages and black entrepreneurs can get business loans. Freedom National Bank, he called it, is gone. We celebrate Jackie. We celebrate King when we talk about great American racial progress. See, we done. Everything's good. But the banks they built and fought for, the banks that helped them make that progress, are dead. In the 1930s, grocery stores represented the largest category of black-owned businesses. We had 6,400 grocery stores. When Kellogg did that famous study based on my family's experiment in 2010, they could only find evidence of 8 to 12 black-owned groceries in America. That's terrible for black people and for this country. Bishop Moody and this church and his Community Development Corporation are working to change that. We need some more black-owned grocery stores. Black beauty supply stores in black neighborhoods with 100% black clientele. Y'all know what I mean. Less than 3% of those that we go to every day across America are black-owned. You know that. You've seen that. You know it's not right. The empowerment center that this church will build will definitely bump that percentage up. And not just the banks, though, and the groceries and the beauty supply stores. We lost black hair care, the one industry birthed by the black community, belonging to us, celebrating us, sustaining us, helping us, especially the sisters, thrive and succeed in business. In 1986, again, less than 2 decades after King was murdered, Irving J. Botner, racist Irving J. Botner, CEO of Revlon, when asked about competition from black-owned firms in the black hair care industry, Botner said this publicly to Newsweek: in the next couple of years, the black-owned businesses will disappear. They'll all be sold to white companies. And he was right. Sport and Wave, Les Jam, Carefree Curl, Strength of Nature, Cream of Nature, Dark and Lovely, Smooth and Shine, Dark and Natural, Stay Soft Fro, Carol's Daughter, and the latest one on the chopping block, Mayel, all owned now by L'Oreal, a French company owned by Liliane Bettencourt, who died in 2017, the world's richest woman. Guess how she got that way? Because by 2000, L'Oreal owned all of the largest black hair care companies. A couple of years ago, Dutch-owned Unilever put the nail in the coffin when they bought Nubian Brands. That's all the Shea Moisture products. All these brands, iconic brands and companies, are no longer black-owned. And the fantastic black-owned companies we do still have can't get into the big retailers because the big Unilevers and L'Oreals edge them out. Less than 5% of that black hair care aisle is represented by actual black-owned brands. Plenty of kente cloth, plenty of beautiful black babies on the boxes, but very few black-owned brands. And one more thing, by the way. L'Oreal is not doing business with black entrepreneurs. There are no black firms in her supply chain, no black suppliers, just black buyers. Take that in. All those jobs, businesses, dreams, all those billions and billions, and black intergenerational wealth and entrepreneurship and pure power from our black hair. All that money goes who knows where. I know where it ain't at. It ain't in Gary. It ain't in Oakland. It ain't in Baltimore. It ain't in Birmingham. It ain't in West Philly or on the south side of Chicago. And that's what racist Botner wanted. That's what he promised, planned for, and predicted. Our own Langston Hughes also predicted what would happen to us without economic solidarity. He wrote this poem called The Ballad of Booker T. The tallest tower can tumble down if it not be rooted in solid ground. So being a far-seeing practical man, he said, you must train your heart, your head, and your hand. Your fate is here and not afar. So let down your bucket where you are. Your fate is here and not afar. Let down your bucket where you are. Let down your bucket, Langston said. Put your money there, King said. So I pour into my bucket every day. My girl's pediatrician, orthodontist, braces are expensive. Our family dentist, our dermatologist, gynecologist, John's chiropractor, his optometrist, my glasses, John's glasses, his contact lenses, all black, lawyer, real estate agent, my financial and investment advisor and insurance agent, black, of course, because it's John, and remember, my husband is black. People ask, our wines, vodka, whiskey, the popcorn we eat, seasonings and sauces, John's dress shirts, ties, cufflinks, his underwear, all my makeup and perfume, hair products, vitamins, my dog food, favorite bakery and coffee shop, the hotels and restaurants we stay in, like the one I stayed in last night in Birmingham, my designer purses and shoes, my nail salon, my spa, all black. I don't think we have enough time in the service to tell you how much money I pour into my community, how I let down my bucket. What else? Yes, my mortgage and my second mortgage with a black-owned bank. Yes, most beautiful days like this, the few that we do have in Chicago, you can find me letting down my bucket on the back porch of my house that's mortgaged with a black-owned bank, with my shades from a black-owned company, perhaps sipping on some wine from a black family firm. Heritage Link Brands, owned by Harvard MBA couple Corey and Selena Koof. Heritage, my wine company, is the largest company in the wine industry to trade and sell Africa's black-made wines. That's my wine. One of those winemakers is House of Mandela, led by the women of the Mandela family, Makasiwi and Takwini, respectively, the daughter and granddaughter of Nelson Mandela. That's my wine. Another one of my favorites is Bukatrabe, and I drink a lot of Bukatrabe, a lot of Bukatrabe. Every day, I drink that Bukatrabe wine for my people. I make that sacrifice. I drink that wine for Africa, for Corey and Selena and all the beautiful people they're employing and empowering throughout the diaspora. So if I had to drink that wine for my people, I'll make that sacrifice and drink that wine. But seriously though, y'all, I did seek and I do sip on that wine because I want to empower black people, because I love my people and I love wine. All right, let me stop playing with y'all. The point is, here's the point. We're entitled to equality, but we have to earn our empowerment. Now, that's a good one, so I need you to say it so you won't forget. We're entitled to our equality. We must earn our empowerment. Thank you, please, because I can't let this be just another tired preach and present fest. Another business card exchanging bonanza, another pretty people posing for the pictures party, another networking affair where nothing was netted and no work is done. Is that really why we're here? Is that why you invited me? Is that why Stephanie and Vanessa and Anika and Tamika and Bishop and the rest of the church's fantastic team worked tirelessly to provide us such an extraordinary speaker series and such a magnificent, world-class, astonishingly awesome guest speaker? So are you ready? I keep asking because I really need to know. Are you going to go back to that black business you went to a couple of years ago where you might not have received the best service? You gave Trump a try. Can a brother or sister get a second chance? You can make sure you go to a black-owned restaurant 3 times a month. You can go to that black-owned dry cleaner you claim doesn't exist but you never look for. You can put a little money in a black-owned bank. You can look for black-made products at the grocery store. You can stay in black-owned hotels, support your black chamber of commerce, and stop. This is it. Stop going to non-black-owned nail salons, spas, and beauty supply stores. Just stop. I have a website, blackownedhaircarechallenge.com. It lists black-owned beauty brands and beauty supply stores throughout this country. That's the only reason I built it. Nothing from there comes to me. I just want you to look there, find your spot, support it, and be done with it. That's how we need to be. I'm not asking you to do anything I don't do myself. This is what I do, and I do it because I want justice. I want justice, and I'm looking for it here. That's why I'm here. So let's fight back by buying black. Every time they shoot an unarmed black person, we fight back by buying black. Are you ready for that? For the black community to cure unemployment instead of claiming unemployment in America like we did before. Are you ready for that? Or am I moving a little too fast and furious for you in Birmingham? I don't know. Bishop told me that y'all were ready for a revolution here. Was he wrong? Did he speak too soon? We can't do it with the vote alone, with prayer and faith alone, with protests alone. We can't keep fighting racism and inequality with our prayers and protests, then enabling that racism and inequality with our purchases. That's another good one. That is a good one. So I got to say that one with you too. We can't keep fighting racism with our prayers and protests, then enabling racism with our purchases. Did you know that those Montgomery marchers, our elders and ancestors, led by the preachers in that economic boycott, marched for 385 days straight, just over a year? Our people had killer dogs at their heels, death threats. Thugs were harassing our women and menacing our kids. They were hanging and beating up our men, but not one of those marchers got back on that bus until the community got the respect they deserved. That's solidarity. That's the spirit of solidarity and sacrifice. And just like then, I hope you leave this service knowing that what each and every one of you do or don't do as students, parents, professionals, entrepreneurs, public servants, faith leaders, conscious consumers is the key, the fuel, and the real answer. So when you don't even try, all of us fail. Now, are you ready to keep marching with me down here, with Bishop? Are you? Are you ready to march? To make these small changes and sacrifices so the new crown jewel of black presence and empowerment is the Magic City. It's going to be awesome. That empowerment center. It's gonna, let's call it the let down your bucket, put your money there. We don't care what you say, racist Botner, Black Presence and Empowerment Center. That's what I want to call it. Are you marching for that? Or are you still riding comfy, Christian, and cute, looking down at us from your cozy seat on the back of the bus? I don't know. I don't think y'all ready yet, because we got to be lined up and ready. We got to be positioned for the power. Who remembers Spike Lee's movie about Malcolm X? I'm kind of aging myself now. I think that's like 20 years old. Y'all remember Denzel? I mean Malcolm. All towel and fine with his suit with the hat and that he cocked a little bit to the side. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember when they beat up that little boy, the cops, the racist cops, and then he came to the hospital and he demanded to see that boy and make sure he was okay. And remember those racist cops, they tried to blow him off and ignore him because he's black and therefore unworthy of their respect. Yeah, you remember that? What did Denzel do? What did Malcolm do? Did he wait? Did he whine? Did he walk away and wish? No. He called on his brothers. He called on the community, and they all lined up. Sisters, y'all remember that? Woo! All them brothers lined up. That was a beautiful scene, wasn't it? They lined up. They got in position, clean and strong and bold and brave and black and beautiful. And they lined up, and they would not leave until Malcolm, until Malcolm said it was okay, until that black doctor came out and said that the boy was all right. And it was only then when Malcolm said it was okay. And he said okay by doing this. And then they marched off. You remember that? That was it. That's everything. That was it. And that's you, Bishop. And behind you, that's us. All these sisters and brothers you've rallied since 2006. All those people that's going to be lined up at your empowerment center and KL Me Crazy. The strongest and smartest, most committed of us, all lined up, positioned, revved, and ready. We got to be like that. We got to fight like they fought. And we got to buy like they bought. That's another good one. I got so many. All right. Fight like they fought. And buy like they bought. I'm pushing you, I know. But seriously, you all can't know how much you guys are giving me and blessing me by having me here, especially during this month, Black History Month. Bishop Moody, you think you know. You think you're doing a good thing, helping your friend Maggie get this message out, supporting me, being my friend. You think you know. But you can't know. I've been in cancer treatment for the past year and a half. I was at the cancer center just this past Tuesday. That's why I was kind of halfway happy when we couldn't do this last year when you guys originally reached out, Stephanie. I was finishing chemo and about to start radiation at this time last year. I was prepared to defy my doctor's orders, my black doctor's orders, and come here and be with y'all. I've done that so many times since she diagnosed me. I've spoken and lectured and interviewed virtually and in person all over the world. I helped plan and was able to serve as the matron of honor at my best friend's wedding. I took care of my dying father who was suffering from dementia. I buried my father. I eulogized my father. All in between the 4 surgeries, 5 months of intense chemo, 3 months of daily radiation. This very week, last year, after most of my hair had fallen out in clumps, I finally shaved my head. My whole life, I don't know how many of y'all know me, seen my videos and my TED Talks, or saw me speak at the A.G. Gaston conference a couple of times. I've had hair down my back, just like my mother's. I was, and I am, really sad and self-conscious about losing my hair. So for the past year, when I speak or lecture or do television interviews, I wear this wig. Nowhere near as beautiful as my hair was, but the Cancer Center made it especially for me. And I wore it today because Bishop gave me a job to do, so I put on my wig and I went to work. I wanted to make sure that you all were listening to me instead of looking at my cancer. But you know what? I'm almost done now, and I hate this thing. And while I hate how I look without it, I hate how it makes me feel even more. It makes me feel ashamed. It makes me feel weak. And in here, in the worship center with Bishop Moody and all my friends and Stephanie, in here, as my God has perched me on this pulpit to preach about power in Black History Month, in here, with you, for you, I feel pride, no shame. I'm proud. I'm not ashamed. I'm not sick. And I'm glad I told you. I'm glad I didn't keep lying to you, because I want you to see that I'm all about walking the walk and fueling your faith with facts and history and real stories of sacrifice. And this is real. And this is sacrifice. And if y'all just give me a couple more minutes, and as it is Sunday and I'm in church, I want to share a story in the Bible about sacrifice that helps me when I want to give up. Y'all have a seat. We're going to go to Daniel real quick. The Bible says that after the king of Babylon seized Jerusalem, he took young Daniel, as he was especially smart and strong, from his comfortable life for the express purpose of being trained, of being integrated into the ways of the Babylonians and to serve the king. Daniel would endure the training, but he didn't want to lose his soul. So in verse 8, it says, Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's rich food or with the wine which he drank. And for this sacrifice, God rewarded him with strength to endure and protection from the evil guards. The scripture says, God gave Daniel favor in the sight of the chief of the eunuchs. Now, that's a wonderful story about taking a stand, about making a sacrifice, about God's grace. Now, let me show you how it touched me. Then I can let y'all go. In verses 12 and 13, Daniel proposed an experiment. An experiment, remember? So that he would not have to eat the king's food, but at the same time not starve or get killed or beaten by the king's soldiers. An experiment, Daniel says, please test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water. And at the end of the 10 days, see how we look compared to the young men who are eating the king's food. Do you see it now? I am Daniel, especially smart and strong, and I wanted to take a stand. So I proposed an experiment, the empowerment experiment. I hadn't even met Bishop yet or thought he would put this series on presence and empowerment together. I'm no preacher, I'm no reverend. I created and conducted the empowerment experiment, and like Daniel, I cried, Lord, give me 1 year. Test me for 1 year on the diet of the fruit and talents and goods of my struggling, still strong black community. And at the end of that year, see how I look compared to my peers who are still eating the king's food. So how do I look, Birmingham? Do I look sad and sick and worn and weary that my businesses are dead and dying, and just as quickly and quietly our children are being slain in those places where King's dream has been denied? Or do I look strong and ready to continue the fight in their honor? Am I weak, y'all, because I didn't eat the King's food? How do I look? Do you see me now, Birmingham? Your servant, your Daniel, especially smart and strong, who took a stand for you, for you. See me, not the fancy Kellogg study, the awards, the press, the Juris Doctorate, the MBA, my book. See my real blessing. See me, a scholar, yes, but a soldier too. Do you see me? Not my sadness, not my sickness. Can you see me and my power? Not the cancer and my pain, the real me. How does that look? I know how I look, and I don't love it, but I'm still here. I'm still fighting. So I want you to see that power. See me for the power I still have with cancer and represent, because that's how I see you. Now I just need to know, are there any more Daniels out here this morning who are ready to sacrifice, ready to unite like we used to? Because together and united, we were always stronger. Together and united, we always had more power than pain. We are stronger than cancer, stronger than COVID, stronger than hate and history, than racism. And at this service, we need to use that strength like we used to. Today, we need to be dripping with the sweat of Sojourner. We need to be holding out the outstretched hand of Harriet. We need to be bathed in the blood of Medgar. We need to be boycotting those buses in Montgomery and marching over that bridge in Selma with you right now, John Lewis. That's how we need to be right now. We are not forgetting those that we've lost. We are not rejecting our responsibility. We will not limit our legacy. Not with Maggie Anderson on guard. Because with Mima and Papa's blood still pumping in my veins, I am still strong. With God's favor washing over me, I am still here. Nehemiah chapter 2. Then I told them about how the gracious hand of God had been upon me, and to that they all replied at once, let us rise up and build. Let us rise up and build. Let us rise up and build. let down your bucket, then rise up and build. Now, are we going to build that empowerment center? Are we going to build it? What I need y'all to understand about Nehemiah is that he had the plan to rebuild the kingdom before he had the power. He had the faith first, the faith before he had the fear. And Daniel sacrificed first, and then he got the strength he needed. King, he came back to Memphis. He felt like he hadn't done enough for those sanitation workers, so he came back. And the racists threatened him for that. And he knew that his death may be imminent. But he said, I'm not worried. I'm not fearing any man, because mine eyes have seen the glory. Because I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. He still believed he had work to do. And just like King, I will live and die fighting this fight. And it was in that last speech that he came back amidst those threats to give, where he said, put your money there. That's when he said it. I'm in line with King, with Maria, with Daniel, with Nehemiah, with Maria. I still believe, just like King did, because I've peered over that mountaintop too into the promised land. And I know that when we stand up together as sisters, as daughters of Africa, as united, undeniable believers in King's dream, not overlooking the circumstances of economic injustice, we not only see over the mountaintop into the promised land, we move mountains. So if you're Daniel too, if you got some Nehemiah in you, if you got more favor than fear and more power than pain, if you are going to put your money there, if you're going to fight like they fought and buy like they fought, then stand up and rejoice like I do, that God has put this series, this beautiful day, this one more chance, God. Stand up and show me your strength, because I've shown you mine. Because if this disease comes back, I need to know that each and every one of you will keep on fighting back, speaking up, letting down your bucket, letting that bucket down so that our tall tower will never tumble down. Thank you. I love you. I'm Maggie Anderson. I love you so much.